My family demanded I marry my dad's best friend's son, but when I eloped with my boyfriend instead, they exploded. "You're dead to us," my dad screamed, and now my phone won't stop buzzing with threats, lies, and a secret that could ruin everything. Their notifications light up my screen every few minutes with texts, missed calls, and voicemails. I've muted most of them, but they still appear like angry little reminders of the chaos I've left behind. 3 days since I said I do to Ethan in that small chapel in Vermont, my family still can't accept that I've made my own choice. I'm Ava Chen, a 26-year-old graphic designer at a mid-sized marketing firm in Boston. My parents immigrated from Shanghai before I was born, carrying with them not just suitcases but generations of traditional expectations. Growing up, I balanced between two worlds, the American independence I craved and the filial piety my parents demanded. "Family connections are everything," my father would say. "In America, we need our community even more." That's why when I turned 25, my parents and my Aunt Wee spread rumors in our community that I was already engaged to him. My younger cousin Lily texted me, "Everyone at the cultural center is talking about your wedding. When is it?" It was suffocating. "They'll never accept us," I told Ethan one night, crying in his apartment after another disastrous family dinner where my dad wouldn't even look at him when I brought him to Lunar New Year. Ethan took my hands and said, "Then let's just do it. Let's get married, Ava. Not for them, for us." The plan came together quickly with a weekend trip to Vermont, a small chapel, just us and two witnesses, my college roommate Priya and Ethan's brother James. We had simple rings, heartfelt vows, and the most genuine happiness I'd felt in months. We sent the family text after it was done, a simple photo of us outside the chapel with our rings visible and the caption, "We decided to follow our hearts. Just married." The explosion was nuclear. My phone rang within seconds, my mother wailing so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear, screaming about the shame and disrespect. My father took the phone next, his voice ice cold as he said, "You are no daughter of mine. You have betrayed your family, your culture, everything we've done for you." The calls and texts poured in. My Aunt Wee is telling everyone you were pregnant and had to get married quickly. And she's saying Ethan forced you into it and is using you for your family's money. People are believing her. And even Michael's family is involved now, saying you led him on. It's getting ugly. I sat on the edge of the bed with my hands shaking while Ethan was still asleep beside me, his face peaceful, having no idea what my family was capable of when they felt dishonored. My phone buzzed again with a text from my childhood friend Min, who still attended my parents' church, telling me my mom was crying at church and telling everyone I've abandoned the family and rejected my culture. She showed everyone a photo of me and Michael from last Christmas, saying I broke his heart. The lies were spreading like wildfire through our tight-knit community, and my reputation, my character, and my reasons were all being twisted into something unrecognizable. I could feel my chest tightening with that familiar anxiety, but something else was building too, a slow-burning anger. I documented every memory, every manipulation, and every moment of guilt they'd forced on me. The truth poured out of me like a flood breaking through a dam that had been holding back years of resentment. My blog post started with a simple headline, "Why I Eloped," an open letter to the community that's being lied to. I wrote that I never wanted to air our family's dirty laundry, but when lies are being spread about me, about my husband, and about our relationship, I have no choice but to defend myself with the truth. I attached screenshots of the texts from my mother saying, "If you continue seeing this white boy, we will cut you off completely. Think of what this will do to your father's reputation." I included voice recordings from family dinners where they'd cornered me, with my aunt saying, "Michael has already told his parents he intends to propose," while Michael sat there smiling smugly, despite never having taken me on a single date. My phone buzzed as I was writing with another text from Min. "Your mom is showing people pictures of Michael at the hospital, saying he's heartbroken and can't focus on his surgeries because of what you did. People are really worried about his patient." I felt sick that they were willing to go that far, to suggest patients' lives might be at risk because of my decision, and I added this new lie to my growing document. Ethan came home from work while I was still typing, and set his bag down quietly, watching me with concern. "You okay?" asked, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. I looked up at this man who'd never once tried to control me, who'd supported every decision I'd made, who'd stood by me even when my family treated him like he was invisible. "I'm fighting back," I said, turning my laptop screen toward him. His eyes widened as he scanned the document. "Ava, are you sure about this? Once it's out there, they're destroying my reputation, Ethan. They're making you out to be some predator." Just then Michael stepped between us, his voice quiet but firm. He looked at Ethan as if just remembering he was there and said, "This doesn't concern you." Ethan replied evenly, "My wife concerns me." The word wife seemed to hit Michael like a physical blow, his face contorting with rage as he looked past Ethan to me. "You have no idea what you've done. Your grandfather called my father today. He's devastated, and he's talking about changing his will. Ava, is that what you want, to be cut off completely?" I felt a pang at the mention of my grandfather, who was the only one in my family who had ever shown me unconditional love, but even that love, it seemed, had conditions after all. "If that's his choice, I'll accept it," I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. "I have my own life, my own career. I don't need family money." Michael laughed bitterly. "You say that now. Wait until you're struggling to pay rent while watching your sister inherit everything." As he turned to leave, he stopped at the door. "By the way, your mother is in the hospital. Stress-induced cardiac event. But I'm sure your precious truth was worth it." The door slammed behind him, and and I stood frozen, his parting words echoing in my head. He's lying, Ethan said immediately. He's trying to manipulate you. But what if he was? What if my mother really was in the hospital? And what if my blog post had pushed her over the edge? I grabbed my phone and turned it back on as the notifications flooded in. Texts, calls, emails, social media alert. But among them was a message from my cousin Lily, the only one in the family who had congratulated us on our marriage. Don't believe what they're telling you about Aunt Lynn being in the hospital. She's fine. I just saw her at the cultural center an hour ago telling everyone how her daughter has abandoned her. Stay strong, Ava. Relief washed over me, followed quickly by a new wave of anger. They would stoop so low as to fake a medical emergency. I showed Ethan the message, and his jaw tightened. This has to stop, Ava. It will, I said, a new resolve hardening within me. I'm done letting them control the narrative. Yay, I said, my voice breaking. I need your help. I told him everything, the arranged marriage plans, eloping with Ethan, and the smear campaign my family was running through our community. He listened quietly, only occasionally asking a clarifying question. When I finished, there was silence on the line before he finally said, "They've forgotten what matters. Your happiness should be there. Happiness." His words loosened something in my chest. "They're saying terrible things about Ethan, about me. Come see me," he said firmly. "Tomorrow. Bring your husband. It's time I meet the man my granddaughter chose." After hanging up, I turned to find Ethan standing in the doorway, concern etched across his face. "Everything okay? We're going to see my grandfather tomorrow," I said. "He wants to meet you." Ethan sat beside me, taking my hand. "Is that good or bad?" I smiled for what felt like the first time in days. "Good, definitely good." The next morning, we drove to my grandfather's house in Brooklyn. He'd moved there after my grandmother passed, wanting to be closer to family but maintaining his independence. His home was a beautiful colonial, with a garden he tended himself. As we pulled into the driveway, Ethan asked, "He will. He's not like the rest of them." I squeezed his. The door opened before we reached it, and my grandfather stood there, still straight-backed at 78, his smile crinkling the corners of his eyes. "Ava," he said, opening his arms. I fell into his embrace, inhaling the familiar scent of sandalwood and tea. When we pulled apart, I wiped away tears I hadn't realized were falling. "And you must be Ethan," he said, extending his hand. "The man who married my granddaughter, without letting me give her away." I froze, but Ethan met his gaze steadily. "I'm sorry about that. We wanted to do things our way, but I should have respected your place in Ava's life." My grandfather's serious expression held for a moment before breaking into a smile. "Honesty. Good. Come in, both of you." Over tea and the almond cookies I loved since childhood, my grandfather listened as we shared more details about our relationship, our wedding, and the aftermath. His expression darkened when I showed him some of the messages. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from, "Your mom is at the cultural center right now, telling everyone you've cut off all contact with the family and rejected your heritage. People are actually crying for her." I showed my grandfather the message, anger building inside me. "See? They won't He read it, then looked up at me with unexpected determination. "Then perhaps it's time we showed up." "What do you mean?" Ethan asked. "The community respects me," my grandfather said simply. "If I stand with you both publicly, it changes everything." The idea was both terrifying and exhilarating. "You do that, family supports family," he said, firmly. "Your parents have forgotten that." Within the hour we were in my grandfather's car, heading to the cultural center. My stomach was in knots, as I hadn't seen my mother since before the wedding. "What exactly is the plan here?" Ethan asked from the back seat. My grandfather smiled at him in the rearview mirror. "We're going to tell the truth, all of it." The parking lot was full when we arrived. Saturday cultural classes were in session, and apparently, my mother's drama was drawing quite an audience. My grandfather parked his Lexus in his reserved spot near the entrance, and asked, "Ready?" I nodded though my legs felt like gel. Ethan took my hand, his palm warm and steady against mine, as we walked through those doors, which felt like entering a battlefield. The main hall was crowded with familiar faces, parents of childhood friends, elders from church, and my mother's mahjong group. They all turned as we entered, a wave of whispers spreading through the room. My mother stood at the center, tissues in hand, with my Aunt Wee patting her shoulder consolingly. When she saw us, her performance froze mid-sob. "Baba," she said, spotting my grandfather. Then her eyes landed on me, widening before narrowing at the sight of Ethan and our clasped hands. "What are you doing here?" My grandfather stepped forward as my Aunt Wee whispered something to my cousin. Only my grandfather stood, walking slowly to embrace me, then extending his hand to Ethan. "Welcome to my home," he said, clearly, his accent thick but his intention unmistakable. Dinner was excruciating. Conversation happened around us, never including us, and Michael's absence was conspicuous, though his parents sat rigidly across from me, barely touching their Finally, as dessert was served, my grandfather tapped his glass. "I have something to say," he announced, and all eyes turned to him. "In China, I had nothing. I came here for opportunity, yes, but also for freedom. Freedom to choose my path." He looked directly at my parents. "The same freedom we wanted for our children." My mother started to speak, but he raised his hand. "Ava has chosen her path, her husband." He nodded toward Ethan. "This harassment must stop." My father's face flushed. You don't understand what she's done. I understand perfectly, my grandfather interrupted. She has lived the American dream we sacrificed for, making her own choices and finding her own happiness. The tension in the room was palpable. My Aunt Wee muttered something about family obligation, and suddenly I couldn't stay silent any longer. I stood, my chair scraping loudly against the floor, as all eyes turned to me. I've listened to your lies for days, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. You've tried to destroy my reputation, my husband's career, and our peace, all because I didn't follow your plan for my life. I pulled out my phone and opened my carefully organized folder of evidence. It stops today. Every lie, every manipulation, every attempt to control me. I have it all documented here, and I'm prepared to share it with everyone. The entire community, Michael's family, everyone at church, unless you agree to leave us alone. Gasps echoed around the table. My mother's face You wouldn't dare, my Aunt Wee hissed. I met her gaze steadily. Try me. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see the calculations happening behind their eyes, the potential humiliation, the loss of face if everyone saw how they'd behave. My grandfather smiled slightly, pride evident in his eyes. I think, he said quietly, my granddaughter has made herself clear. As we drove home that night, a weight lifted from my shoulders, and for the first time in weeks, I could breathe freely. Do you think it worked, Ethan? I looked down at my phone, where a text from my grandfather had just appeared. They will not bother you again. Come for tea next week, just us. I think so, I said, smiling. But if not, I patted my bag, where a USB drive contained copies of everything, every manipulative message, every lie, every scheme. I'd made multiple backups, stored safely in various locations. Tomorrow I would meet with a lawyer to discuss a restraining order, just in case, and I'd also scheduled an appointment with a therapist specializing in family trauma. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, I was fully in control of my own story. My phone buzzed with an incoming call, and Michael's name flashed on the screen. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. Hello, Ava. His voice sounded different, tired, maybe even apologetic. We need to talk. There's something you should know about your parents' plan. I caught Ethan's questioning glance, and nodded reassuringly as I turned on the call recorder app. I'm listening, I said, reaching for my note.